Beth, why you look so excited when you heard or saw the intro come in? I saw
I know.
your face.
I was impressed, DJ Jazzy Shawn.
I suppose. No, thanks for that. I saw you start to nod your
I
head a
was.
little bit. That's really cool. It's really cool. So welcome today, everyone. I'm Shawn Williams. Welcome to Lending with Purpose. This is a conversation about empowering you with valuable information, resources, and engaging conversations with clients and friends that'll help you navigate the world of lending, but not only lending, but to enhance your life. And so today I have my friend Beth Rosenbaum here. And Beth, later you can tell us who you are, what you do, talk about your experience and your company and such. But thank you for your time today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I guess kind of starting off with a quick story. I called one of my buddies this weekend and I said, you know what, man? What did I say? I said, I'm gonna start doing some really uncomfortable stuff on social media. And
Ooh,
he said, "What? You?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think so." And I was thinking to myself, I really don't know how to say it a lot of times. And but the thing that we always talk about is like, how do you show up is sort of like your authentic self and just kind of just show up as who you are. And so I often think about like the why behind a company and like why we're doing what we're doing. And constantly this week I've had so many instances where folks are reaching out, like it's a dark place, as you know, Beth, right now in the mortgage and real estate industry, financials, but overall in the economy, right? Folks are losing jobs and people are hurting. And so every time I get down, like someone calls me and tells me how I helped them in the past and they
oh,
got referred to me by someone or whatever it might be. Or I get like yesterday, for instance, just a real quick story and then we'll move on. Yesterday, I had a client who was referred to us by her commercial banker. So I didn't know the buyer's agent. The buyer's agent came with the actual buyer who was referred. And so more often than not, we have to also impress that buyer's agent because you don't want them to refer the client that you're working with, although you share the same client that's buying a home. They're used to working with probably a different loan officer. More often than not, they'll just say, I want to use my person, right? And they'll refer you. So you're trying to impress them. So yesterday we get into it and we're writing an offer on a home. And he's like, I said, why don't you copy me when you send the offer in? Just copy me, and I'll follow back up with the listing agent with a quick video or phone call, whatever it may be. He's like, yeah, that'd be cool. He's a top agent. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, been doing this for a long time. I'm impressed by some things, but not really, right? And so I saw the name of the agent. I'm like, yeah, he does decent amount of business. So I texted someone that I know that was connected with this agent. And I said, do you know such and such? And they said yes. And I said, would you mind just shooting a message to let them know if they see an offer that comes across from such and such agent that the lender on the other side is reputable, right? And is going to be a credible and reliable source. So he put us on a group text together and sent this great message. And I don't know what'll happen, but you know,
that's so awesome.
chances are things will be favorable. I would hope and assume for our client, but like it just things like that continue to kind of happen and go full circle. So the reason I'm telling this story is because today, it could be potentially a dark conversation, but there is a little bit of hope, right? And so just to let people know, like, when things seem like they're at its worst, and when there's adversity, typically there's something big on the other side. Like we're in a down market right now, but at some point it's going to turn,
Yep.
right? And so if you can withstand all the adversity that we're going to have to go through to get to the other side, there's going to be a big reward on the other end. And so I just wanted to tell that story to get started because I think it fits some of the things that we're going to be talking about today. But
Yep.
ladies and gentlemen, we have Beth Rosenbaum with she's a principal at WOSG LLC, and it's a mortgage recruiting firm. So Beth, tell us who you are, what you do, and we'll start into our conversation.
Yeah. So thank you for the introduction. Yes, I have had my own recruiting company for 10 years. And I come from the mortgage banking industry. So my first job out of college was with GE Mortgage Insurance before it was, now it's Genworth. But anyway, and I worked as a processor, which back then really was data entry. It had nothing to do with processing. It was a DOS system. So underwriting was the closest thing to processing. I then got promoted to a junior underwriter and then was let go, traveled around the world for a year, random one off. But anyway, and then I came back and I kept getting back into the mortgage industry back and forth, like loan processor, underwriter, and was always laid off. But I always had that base as my background. But, I always tell people, like, what is the one job that you've done when you look at your resume? If anybody's like confused about what to do, I'm like, I always look at like, where did you stay the longest? Where did you never have any problem getting a job? Like anytime you applied, everybody wanted you and for me, it was always sales, even though in my mind, I hated sales because I'm like, I'm not motivated by money. And most times when you're working in sales for a company, the company is looking at the bottom line and they're like, okay, what have you done for me lately? What have you done? So they're constantly watching. So I was like, that is not me. I cannot constantly have like a fire put under me. Anyway, long story short, I'd always been interested in recruiting. Somebody took a chance on me and I got my first entry level recruiting job and I loved it. But again, was not motivated by the money, which, my boss, of course, has to keep the lights on. That's what they're constantly, drilling. What are you doing now? What are you doing? Anyway, and just wanting me to fill a position that maybe I didn't believe in, or I didn't believe in the company or something. So I looked and I was like, okay, what can I do? What are the things that I love about what I've done? What is my expertise? And combined mortgage banking with recruiting. And that's, long story short, but I basically quit a job. It was like, I don't like that I'm keep going down the same rabbit holes of sales, basically how are you bringing money in? And that was not in line with doing the right thing in that environment or whatever, in that situation. So I just quit and I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And I'm like, well, I'll just start recruiting until I figure it out. And then that's how it started.
Oh wow, that's a pretty cool story. You have a family too, right? I think you have. How
Yeah.
many
When
kids
I
do you have?
quit, so I quit my job. I think it was like the end of 2012. So it was like right around the holidays, right?
Yeah.
I had gotten divorced. So I was legally separated at the end of 2009, divorced at the end of 2010. So yeah, I mean, the only thing I had, I will say, just to kind of put a caveat that it wasn't like, oh, wow, I just made it happen. I mean, I did have some money from my divorce, like when you kind of break off and you each get certain assets, whatever. So I did have a little money but I will say for me, like a lot of people would be like, crap, I have 100 grand. I better like save that. And then, what job can I do? And then I would have ended up continuing in the same, spiral of like, I'm
Yeah.
not happy. I'm doing something I don't like, but it's paying the bills. And I just was like, I'm going to use that money and just figure out me. So,
No, that's a great story. Thanks for sharing that. Thank you.
yeah.
So, Beth, what are you seeing out here? What's going on? Like, uh, it's funny. I talk about sometimes. I remember when the downturn started to happen in midway through, because it's been a fairly long cycle. This has been a little painful as opposed to what we went through back in 2008. Similar, but just a bit more,
Yeah.
right? And so, let my wife tell you, a few months ago, there was no one in the world that was going to ever buy a house again,
That's
right?
hilarious. Oh my
and
God, I can't
and
imagine.
but she's a news person. She's a journalist by
Oh,
trade. She watches the news all the time,
right.
and that's the information that's being put out here. And so, like, when someone asks you, like, so how's the mortgage industry? What do you say? Like, what's going on right now?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on who asks. Anybody like from the outside, I'm like, yeah, it is rough. But, I really try, if I have time, I try and talk to people one by one because, okay, there's the operations folks, and so many of them have been laid off. And where in the past, like I was always laid off because I was average, not great, right? Now you have great people who are laid off. So I try and kind of, you know, parse it out a little bit when I'm talking to people, because I do think there are people who are built for this, you know, and like, yes, AI is going to always is, you know, creeping in, but I don't think anything happens at 180 degrees, right? You know, maybe it will by the time my grandchildren enter this industry. Maybe processors and underwriters will, you know, vastly be out of the picture. I don't know. But it's not going to happen anytime soon. There's still the human factor. There's still, you know, so I think the people who are really good at it, I mean, I do think that it's worth, you know, sticking it out, whether it's, you know, I've advised people, reach out to people in your network, you know, and maybe do something on the side, but don't completely get out of it. I think that some people are really good at it and belong here. And other people that, you know, are like me, that I felt like I was just average. It's like, all right, let's talk about what your real strengths are. And, you know, if they're really organized and detail oriented, you know, you can use that, you know, in law, like other industries that maybe are flourishing, like, you know, healthcare, the billing. I mean, again, I don't know that it's going to pay as much as this, but like for me, when I was processing and underwriting, it literally was a paycheck. I didn't love it. And some people do. So, you know, that's that advice. Now with loan officers too, same thing. Like, I mean, people have asked me if I like, I've talked to a lot of people lately and they're like, don't you know so many loan officers who've gotten out of it? And I'm like, no, I don't know. I know one actually. And I was talking to somebody, another loan officer, who told me that she knows like 50 loan officers. And I'm like, who? And she's like, well, I'm not going to tell you. And I'm thinking, but wouldn't it be on their profile? Like, and I think it's not. I think a lot of these people are doing another job while they're still kind of on their LinkedIn profile listed as loan officers. Um, so I don't know those people's personal experience. All I can say is anybody who's been in this for a long time probably knew 2020 and 2021 were an anomaly and may very well be living on their savings right now, which I know I am. Like, I'm making money, but not enough to like, you know, pay for everything. So I'm living on last year's, the year before, you know. I don't think it's hopeless. You know, anybody who's been doing this a long time knows it's cyclical. We're in a cycle. That's it. I mean, it's a bigger drop because we've never seen interest rates as low as they were, you know, and then the perfect storm with COVID and the inventory. But is this industry going to go away? Are people ever going to stop wanting to buy? I mean,
No,
no.
people are still calling now. There's you know, folks that are going through you know, that, like you mentioned, divorce earlier. That's happening, and it's been happening a lot, like through the pandemic and
Yeah.
such. There's people that are relocating from their jobs. So there's folks that bought
Yep.
houses in the pandemic because they could work outside of their office. Now it's like, you know, back to work, and companies are asking folks to come back into the office.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing is happening. You know, I'm having people now that are also talking about getting a bigger space, and or their dream house comes up, and they're just like,
I
I
mean,
don't know when I'm going to get this opportunity again,
yes.
so we have to take advantage of it. So
Yep.
even with the those higher rates, you know, we're really focused on like, listen, can you withstand this for the next 3 years, maybe as long as five? I don't know if it's going to last that long, but you know, you set an expectation that you know is sort of conservative,
Yeah.
so that you know folks aren't putting themselves in a bad situation and making the wrong decision. And
Right.
so like, let's talk about adaptability and like resilience during this time. Like, you know, how can, you know, mortgage professionals, do you work mostly on the operation side, the sales side, or both? Like,
Both. Yeah.
yeah,
Both.
so let's talk about adaptability, which you spoke to a little bit ago. You actually spoke to resilience also, but like, let's go further into you know, how we do that during this uncertain time.
Well, I'll give an example too, just with of myself. Like when I started, I was focused on ops. So, you know, when the market turns and people are laid off and there's more operations folks than there are jobs, people aren't going to come to a recruiter for that. So I did have to adapt and start focusing on loan officers and stuff. So I mean, and I think it's just still staying true to your own values and what you know, right? I mean, like the people that I love to work with, I mean, I love helping people be able to support their families, be able to pay their mortgage. Like that to me is exciting. And when I know that I'm working with a client that offers, whatever, maybe a lead source, maybe they have a builder account or whatever, that to me is exciting. So I was able to, in terms of resilience, but, and also staying true to me, focus on kind of the same things that are important to me in, a lateral sort of role, or not role, but like in the same industry, but just not the same jobs I'm typically used to, had not typically been used to placing for. So, I mean, resiliency, I mean, I just think, I mean, look, everybody is resilient. I mean, look, we're alive, right? I mean, you didn't get there just by accident. You're doing something to like each day wake up and, whatever it is you're doing. So, I mean, some of the things that I tell people that, when they're trying to figure out, what to do is, look, maybe this whole situation is happening for you, not to you.
Hmm.
Right. So maybe whether it's your business is kind of slowed down to a halt, maybe it's forcing you to go, is this really what I want to do? And maybe that's not a bad thing, right? And if you do find yourself doubling down, like, yeah, this is really something that matters to me, then you're going to find a way, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what's the mindset like? Because it's I've talked to a lot of people over the past year that have been affected by layoffs or just the downturn, and it's it hurts, and
Yeah.
especially if you're a person that cares and like you mentioned, you want to help as many people as you can. Like, what's the mindset and like what are the conversations like? Like, you have some people that have been doing this industry forever, and this is all they know, and like so like what do you do like in regards to getting more skills or certifications or anything that you could recommend to the mortgage professionals to broaden their career prospects? Like, what do you tell someone to kind of talk them off the ledge that maybe there's some it sucks right now, but there's some hope if
Yeah.
you do these particular things? Like, what skills do you recommend to mortgage professionals?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like social media is so huge right now.
Hmm.
I just feel like, if there's ways that they can enhance their skill set so that they're adding. So, for instance, if you're like a processor or an underwriter, like your overhead, right? But if you can also go in and be like, oh, and I really am good with social media and I can help you, loan officer, to get more business through X, I think that's, I think you just have to be creative. What is going to make money for who you want to hire you? How are you going to be an investment? How are, yeah. So, I mean, and I've seen some, like, I'm probably not the best person to ask about this because I will say, as a recruiter, when I see a resume where somebody, okay, for instance, like has never underwritten or anything, but then they've got some FHA certification, like all things being equal, I'm going to be like, okay, like, yeah, you read about it, but, being in the trenches and actually having worked on those loans and understanding the complications, like, I'm really big on what the personal experience is.
Hmm.
I don't, I hate to say that, but I'm just being honest about what I think when I see that stuff on a resume, if they don't have the personal experience. What I would recommend to people, like maybe you can get in, maybe you could, if you're really, you're into mortgage or whatever, maybe you can contract, maybe you can work and on an hourly basis, 1099. And again, call people, that if they can't afford to hire a processor, but and they're processing their own loans, they'd probably work with you on okay, per file, I'll do this. It's going to keep your skills good, right? And then maybe you learn something else on the side. Maybe you're able to provide, again, like the social media. Maybe you can go to open houses for your loan officer and help him or her get more business that way. Like, I think you just have to be creative and find ways where you're an investment.
Thank you. That's good information. Be an investment. That's what I wrote down. And so, like, tell us, because you're a recruiter.
Yeah.
Like, what's your role, right? Number one, how's your role evolved? Number two, and then give us a quick success story of someone maybe recently that you've helped get through this storm. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I did. Okay, so my role, I mean, I work with, like sales and ops. So the way that I work is I work with people that I really believe in, that have really good integrity, that I'm like the companies that I feel like they're offering something that is going to help my candidate better their lives. They have a great culture. They care about people. They don't lay off just because, oh man, now I'm not going to be able to get the Lamborghini that I wanted. I mean, they really care about and recognize that the people that are under them are the reason that they are as successful as they are. And they recognize these people have to pay their mortgages. They have families. Like, that's important to me. Equally important is working with people, loan officers, processors that also care about their employers. They care about, if it's a loan officer, that they care about the people that they're doing loans for. So those are the kinds of folks that I look for, that I want to help, that I put together.
But hang on one second. Why would I even engage with you though? Like, what do you like? What's in it for me to engage
Okay,
with the
you as a
recruiter?
loan officer. Okay,
A
well,
loan officer or an operations person that's just been laid off or looking for another opportunity.
yeah. So, I mean, so an ops person, here's where I mean, I may not have a job for you. What I could do is give you some advice on what you can do. I can help you with your resume. I can help you get clear on what motivates you, on how much you really need to make. And if I feel like, based on talking to you and like what you've loved about the industry and the role and whatever, if I feel like, this is someplace that you want to remain, then I'm going to offer some tips that I think you can do. Now, I'm not going to be able to put you with a client because no one's going to pay me, but I will help you with identifying who you can reach out to in your own network to help you maybe get a job. As a loan officer, I mean, I'll tell you, like, it's not, a lot of loan officers think that because they're straight commission, that it's a wash for anybody to hire them. And that's not true. It's probably, depending on the company, it could be $30,000 of an investment before it's a wash. So not just any loan officer is going to get a job either. So I recommend to people, they've got to be doing something to have business. And then, I talk to them about, again, what's important to them. Who are the people they want to help? Are they motivated by veterans? Are they motivated by first-time home buyers? Like, who are the people, is it people in their community? Like, whatever, divorced people, and then I'll talk to them about where they can go about getting that business. Or I talk to them about coaching. I don't coach, but I know of some coaches and I know people so that kind of stuff, I try and help people. And then with regard to companies wanting to work with me, again, I tell them who I am. Like, it's also an equal, like, do I want to work with you? Because I want to make sure that I'm representing people that they're representing me too. So, but with people wanting to work with me, I mean, I have a pretty good reach, a pretty good reputation because of my integrity. So if we match, I mean, that's kind of my, I don't know, pitch.
No, yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And so I'd ask you also, and I think I think you can actually answer this for me with this last piece, because you've been very generous with your time, and so I'm not going to take a bunch more of it. But I do have some more questions because I'm curious as well, right?
Yeah.
I personally think during these times, like mental health and emotional well-being is so important,
Yeah.
because you can't help anyone else if you can't,
Yeah.
if you can't be okay for yourself, right?
Yes.
And we talk about how you show up, and so when that opportunity comes about, you have to be ready
Yeah.
to seize the opportunity. And so, like, what strategies are you suggesting to people? And then, like, let's get into a success story. Like, let's talk about maybe a conversation or a win that you've had recently, as it relates to maybe helping someone transition in their career or work through some emotional issues that they may have had to get them back on the right track?
Okay, first you mentioned like mental health. So, I mean, honestly, you've just got to find people you connect with. I can tell you, like, I am in therapy. I highly recommend it if you can afford it. I know it's not cheap.
It's covered most of the time by your insurance, by the way.
But you have to have a job to have insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But
Sometimes,
yeah,
I mean, or like whatever. But
whoops,
sometimes
Shawn.
I mean,
Whoops.
I just think that you've got to have those connections. You've got to have people in your life that you can lean on, that you can be vulnerable with. And if you don't, that's where I think a therapist comes into play, because for a long time I didn't trust anybody to be vulnerable with, and I could only do it with a therapist. So that's one thing. You need a tribe. But with regard to a success story, so I can tell you, I mean, like right now, so the loan officers that I've placed this year, well, I mean, I recently placed a loan, but I mean, the loan officers I've placed have primarily been, I've had something that other people haven't. So, like a small community bank, they had some portfolio stuff. So I got a whole group of loan officers that I was able to help. They're doing loans that they weren't able to do before because the rates were actually cheaper. They had less overhead, and they were able to do more portfolio stuff because they're a community bank. I guess they weren't so heavy. They didn't have much on the residential side. They're small. So having these loan officers come in for the first time to kind of be in that part of the whole portfolio of residential, they were able to, utilize that. So I was able to help them. That felt good. Another person I placed, and, it hasn't gotten a whole lot of traction yet, but I did place her with one of my clients. It just was a good match. She had been let go as a loan officer, did not have, so when I was talking about how it's not free to go on with a company, you think, oh, I'm straight commission, but they invested in her because they saw her ability, because other companies were not able to hire her because of her most recent track record. But they talked to her based on my conversation, because I know her well and her background, and was able to put them together. And so they hired her. So, I mean, I think that's a success story, and that someone picked her up and now she's part of a team and she's able to do loans that she wasn't able to do before.
No, that's good, and actually leads into my last question.
Yeah.
So, like for instance, hiring managers, folks like myself that come to you, like, what kind of advice are you hearing that they're asking from you? Like, are they asking you for help on, like, maybe how to maneuver through these situations and how to better help their teams? What advice are you also giving them as well? Like, hiring managers to support their teams and foster a sense of stability.
Oh, I mean, I cannot say that anyone's asked me that, but I do agree that that has got to happen from the top down, because everyone is so scared right now and so nervous. And maybe you can't offer like 100%, guarantee or reassurance, but just transparency, and just understanding where people are coming from, that they are scared, and just, affirm that, and just be there to support them, I think,
No, that makes a lot of sense. What did I miss before I let you go? Like, did I
Well, I
miss
was going to
anything?
say,
Anything you've been wanting to say?
well, no, just the conversation that we just had before the thing started, before the video started.
Oh yeah.
So, and this was totally by accident. Like so Shawn and I spoke yesterday, and he was like, we were talking about just getting ready for this, and he was trying to prepare me for like the content just so I wasn't caught off guard. But, and then at the very end, he said, by the way, if you meet somebody that you think might be good, and he kind of described what would be potentially a good fit for them, he's like, let me know. And so then here I am talking to, all these folks that have reached out to me on LinkedIn, people that are in ops that have been laid off, that I've said, hey, I'll give, let's do a 15-minute call. And I'll see what I can do to help you, whether it's, advise on a different path in a different industry, or what you can do currently here in this industry. And this person is not a loan officer, the woman I was talking with. And, I started talking to her and we kind of got off track, but not, were telling me some of her values and interests. And I was like, oh, wait, I'm like, this sounds like Shawn. And then I was like, oh, but she's not a loan officer. And then she goes and tells me this community meeting that she went to like inform people that they are actually able to get loans and not everybody's out to get them. And I was like, oh my gosh, like she's not a loan officer, but she should be, And so yeah, that was pretty cool. That was like a total serendipitous conversation. And it was right after you and I had spoken. I don't know if it would have occurred to me if you and I had not just like almost exactly gotten off the phone like minutes before.
Yeah, a lot of that's been happening lately, and I've been telling people to just put it out there in the universe, because I don't believe in coincidences. Like that wasn't a coincidence that happened yesterday.
I said the same.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to speaking with her. I'm actually going to follow up with her today.
Good.
So thank you for that introduction. But how can we connect with you? Like, what's the best way to? Well, so first and foremost, what do you need? Tell us what we can do to help you, what you need, and then how do we connect with you?
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, the people who are hiring right now are for salespeople. So anybody who's like a loan officer or, whatever, branch manager, like those folks, I do have roles. They may or may not be a fit, but I do have roles available there. Again, I'm always willing to help and talk to people who, are looking and, whatever, that you can always reach out to me. So the way to get in touch with me, my email address is beth@workforce, O-S as in Sam, G as in girl.com. And, or you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me. But yeah, any way I can help, I'm happy to.
But what can we do for you? You told us how you can help us. What do you need? Candidates or
Oh, well, that's what I was saying. Like loan officers are the only people who my clients are looking for. And that does help me if they come to me. But again, it's harder to ask for stuff.
I understand. I understand. So you ready for the $1 million question?
Oh God, I have tried to prepare myself. Yes.
This is the reason why I called you yesterday, because I didn't want you to be. We send the content brief, but it's like tucked at the bottom of it. And I'm wondering how many people make it to the end of the content brief anyway. But Beth, you get one person, one question. Who would it be and what would you ask?
Well, and I'm glad you warned me, because I would say my brother who died back in 2021, and I probably would have cried if you hadn't warned me. And I mean, I'd probably do multi-prong question to like really take advantage of it only being one question, but
that's good. That's good.
But I would probably want to know, am I on the right path? Like, is heaven real? I would want to know that, and will I see you again? That, are we going to be together forever in some way, shape, or form? But just would want to know, am I on the right path? Am I doing the right things? Has, everything that's happened in my life, has it all, I want to believe that there are no mistakes and, but it would be nice to have someone go, yep, you're right where you're supposed to be.
Oh, wow. And you'd ask your brother this.
Yep.
Got it. Yeah. No one knows you as well as him. And that'd be good. Good
affirmation. Well, the fact that he's dead, you just always, I believe in life after death, and that, spiritually there. And he's got this sort of wisdom that only people who have passed on, I think, have. So.
No, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. I appreciate your time today and willingness to help. And so, like, I've been seeing you be like very active on LinkedIn, and I'm like, you know what, like this whole thing is based on, trying to, empower and elevate as many people as possible and humanize this whole thing.
Yep.
And so, I just wanted to make sure we put the people first and get some questions answered to some of the problems that are out there. Who better to answer the stuff that's going on right now in our industry with the layoffs and such. besides someone like Beth. So it'd be a shame for me to have a connection with you, Beth, and not
Yeah,
share this connection with everyone. And
that's
so,
awesome.
thank you for your time today,
Absolutely.
everyone. If there's anything that I can do to help, we can do to help in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out. Remember to try to your best to stay as safe and as healthy as you possibly can. And yeah, we're back here next week at 2 o'clock. So, Beth, I just ask you to hang on for a little bit, but
Yep.
yeah, thank you for your time today.